All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. These are the notes from the lean coffee session that we ran in the Agile rooms, and let's get into it. This is a summary version, so we want to keep it under 10 minutes. As you can see, it looks very messy. That's good news. It means it's like a living room. It's being used. It's not a showroom. So much good conversation and content. Try and make it to the next lean coffee. So, what did we discuss? Well, the topics that we had here was the blue card. My product owner says he owns the backlog refinement and review, and I should not dismiss if he wants to go over the allotted time. Then we had the rotating Scrum Master, blind leading the blind. Teams not understanding story points as a tool. Okay. Scaled Scrum, organizational technical necessities. And my design team is always averse to tooling process. We managed to get through the blue, yellow, and the orange card in 45 minutes. So let's unpack a bit. So what's the problem? The problem here is one of our peers came along and spoke about the product owner owning the refinement and review, and being told, and that kind of the timing is okay to go over, and it started to present some problems for the Scrum Master. As you can tell from the tone, right, this idea of the PO owning these events or the activity of refinement is not true, right? These are team events, and there may be ownership in parts of the work and the direction of the work, but there's no ownership in the event. The only exception to that in Scrum is the daily Scrum, where the developers, that's their forum. Anyway, so you can already pick up on a bit of a vibe here that the PO seems to think they're boss. Might be being a bit unfair, but that's how I perceived it. Anyway, when we start to look at this a bit more, what we learned was that bugs are not estimated, and the product owner wants them estimated. Now, first of all, there's another smell here, right? If we've got into a habit whereby we have so many bugs that we need to estimate them, then that suggests that there's an underlying problem with quality. And what we know very common is that when we rush people, quality is the second-class citizen. It is the victim of speed. That's one example. So we kind of touched on that, and we wanted to, talk about the tactical part of handling the bugs. In other words, if you see the tactical part here of my cursor, importance can't be understood without estimate, dev to run a spike. Yeah, so what we've said is, fine, maybe developers can look at a batch of defects and start to ascertain a high-level understanding of the effort to complete the work, but with the caveat that, bugs are not building things, so we don't really have past empirical data, so they're going to be a bit more novel in many cases. Not always. So I'm giving that caveat. You can figure out the effort, finger in the air, so we can think about what to focus on and go after first as a bug, but it's just kind of a crappy place to be. But it is what it is. The strategic part is to find out, why do we have so many bugs? So that would be the more important question. Another part of this conversation that sprung up from the note about the product owner thinks they own the events and they think it's okay to go over the allotted time. What also came out was something around the backlog needs to be priced. So they're saying, we need to be able to look way further than our nose. And you know what I'm going to say? There's nothing wrong with having a vision and a direction and bets. But when we start to pretend that we can price the entire product backlog, and it's as long as your arm, you can over detail it, you start to set yourself up for waste and a trap. Why? Because if you're working in an adaptive way, we should be learning something every single sprint, and that learning should be populating the product backlog as we go. If we detail it from top to tail, we are wasting our time and also mismanaging expectations. So what we advised in that situation was, has there been past examples of where the product owner has overpriced the product backlog or over detailed it, and it's come back to bite us on the bum? In other words, building the wrong thing, mismanaging expectations, or creating waste because we've had to redo the work anyway in our planning. Yeah, so anyway, that's what we've got. As you can see, the starting card of the what actually emerged a lot of other different topics, but there was a sense of control and telling the Scrum Master to kind of fall in line, and it's okay for me to take as long as I need to take. If you think about it, the refinement doesn't have a defined period of time as an activity, but a review does. But many more interesting sound bites came out of that. That's what we got with that card. All right, 5 minutes done. Let's move on to the next one. The yellow card here is the old rotating the Scrum Master, blind leading the blind. What's this about? It's what it says on the tin. A company who are having different developers rotate the Scrum Master role, and it's causing an impact. Now, the model that we used here was the what, so what, now what. What's the problem? Well, I just mentioned it. We're rotating it. It's the so what. Like, what's the big deal about that? Is it bad to rotate the Scrum Master role or the accountability? Well, no, but it depends. The reason that this coach cared about this was because they found that every time a rotation occurred, the integrity of the framework, like the quality of what was coming out of the events, wasn't very good or not pleasing enough. So where we got to was building out a bit of an ecosystem and asking a very simple question. You're an agile coach or a scrum master, and you're seeing what you think is a dysfunction. Who's your manager? And they said, well, our manager, we report to product. Okay, cool. Well, who are the developers' managers? Well, they report to a head of development. Why does that matter? Because leadership is the limit, right? The expectations of how we facilitate the events in the frameworks that we use, we've got to tee that up with the managers, right? We've got to know what's clear and what's expected. Why? Because from that point, we can then say, your expectations are X, and now we are seeing Y. We're not able to achieve the quality outcomes from these events because you're rotating it. So we're starting to build a case for change in that respect. The second thing is, if you know something or if you think you know something, prove it, demonstrate it with data. So how can you demonstrate the efficacy of the events, in this case Scrum, with the data? We spoke to the Agile coach and they'd already thought about this, but it was more about just getting to do it. Look at the inputs and the outputs of all the events, the review, the daily Scrum, the retro, you get the deal. What goes in, what comes out. Now, the person facilitating the events should be able to see an improvement in the inputs and the outputs of the events. If that's not working, you've got options. Stabilize the role as a Scrum Master, have one person take it on more frequently, help them upskill and support them. Stop rotating it to dilute it. But whatever we do, get the expectations set for the managers and then start to measure it empirically. All right, cool. That one's done. Third card, short and sweet. Teams not understanding that story points is a tool for teams, not a measure for the leadership team. What does that actually mean? Well, you might have picked up on the vibe already that story points are being used as a bit of a, hey, we need more cookie points, go faster, churn, churn, churn. Now, where we got to here is you could handle this situation more aggressively, which is to go all the way to no estimates and say all estimation sucks, which is going to cause a lot of indigestion, and we don't advise that in every situation. What we spoke about was a more layered approach, and the Agile coach already began with this. They started with time and hours, they moved to story points, and there is what we think at the Agile Rooms is a better technique than story points. Right sizing is an option. Now, why were the story points being used as a bit of a, a stick, if you like? Well, because it turns into, we want to see more, and it comes from that Tayloristic mindset of the Industrial Revolution of, as long as we're churning out more stuff, we're creating more value, and we know that it's flawed. We don't believe that story points are bad, but we do think they can be misused very easily. So in this case here, I think what we needed to kind of recommend when we're speaking with the person was demonstrate to management that story points only tell you how fast you are going, it doesn't tell if you're going in the right direction. A team that are delivering 50 points doesn't mean they're better than a team that deliver 10. A team deliver 10 may deliver more impact. So start to help management see that activity is not an indicator of effectiveness. That doesn't mean bin the story points, but you've got to try and get this across to them. Also, maybe think about right sizing, and we can talk about that in a different video. But there's a more important part to this topic. We need to take a layered approach when we talk about estimation, because estimation, the evolution of it has changed from hours to points to things like right sizing that we see in Kanban and so on. Okay, I hope that was useful. A little bit slapdash, but we don't want to bore the hell out of you. We're not going to all the nuance. The reason we don't record all of the session is because there are things that are being said and people don't want to announce that publicly. So summary videos might be the way to do it. I don't know. We're trying it. Something to do with experimentation and Agile. All right, have a good day, and we look forward to your feedback on the summary. Thank you.